To the Buddha I return and rely, vowing that all living beings profoundly understand the great way and bring forth the Bodhi mind. To the Dharma I return and rely, vowing that all living beings deeply enter the sutra and have wisdom like the sea. To the Sangha I return and rely, vowing that all living beings apply love and compassion to all. Contemplation of impermanence. All conditional phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, morning dew, or a flash of lightning. All sentient beings will definitely die. All inanimate things will definitely perish. This principle also applies to my body, which is composed of the 4 great elements. I will be separated from my family and friends one day. Time is pushing my age forward. Early youth is followed by the robust years of life, which is followed by old age, which is followed by death. sounds, or flowing water never return after they are gone. The thoughts and words of this very moment have already become impermanent. I will come closer and closer to death. Death has no set time to it. I could go to the next world at any moment simply because my breathing stops. I can take no worldly possessions whatsoever with me to the next world. These principles apply to my very own body. Obtaining a human birth is extremely rare. If I take this to heart, I will seize the essence of this precious life. If wasted, this rare opportunity will be destroyed. The root of all happiness is bringing benefit to others and attaining immeasurable freedom. Therefore, the more I reduce grasping, the more I will experience true happiness. Since the time of death is uncertain, I must act now and not be lazy or procrastinate in my practice. By just recognizing that all dharma are empty, dependent on causes and conditions, I will become skilled in what to adopt and what to discard.
What do you do when the life rafts are burning and your babies are inside the boat? Where do you turn when the waters are churning and you're desperate to learn how to float? How do you pray when your prayers go unanswered and each crier feels so alone? What do you do when the lifeboats are burning? You turn, turn, turn. Turn to each other, reach for each other, take one another by the hand. We'll form a life raft, a human life raft, and we will swim towards land. If we make it, we'll start over. If we don't, we go down together. One for all forever. Turn. What do you do when the iceberg is looming, but the ship isn't turning away? How can you be heard when the warning bell's booming, but the band just continues to play? Where do you turn when the engines catch fire and the life rafts are starting to burn? What do you do when the lifeboats are burning? You turn, turn, turn. Turn to each other, reach for each other, take one another by the hand. We'll form a life raft, a human life raft, then we will swim towards land. If we make it, we'll start over. If we don't, we go down together. One for all forever. Turn. Turn to each other, reach for each other, take one another by the hand. We'll form a life raft, a human life raft, then we will swim towards land. If we make it, we'll start over. If we don't, we go down together. One for all forever. Turn. One for all forever.
Turn to each other, reach for each other, take one another by the hand. We'll form a life raft, a human life raft, and we'll swim towards land. If we make it, we'll start over. If we don't, we'll go down together. One for all forever. Turn. Doesn't it feel like that in some ways? These last months, maybe years. But especially, at least from where I sit, these last months have been intense. It's been a lot. Every day we hear about the next thing: war, floods, fires, loss of life, limb, property, through wars and floods, fires, earthquakes, gunfire, oppression, and change. The loss and gain through election. The list goes on. The 8 worldly winds. How often we've talked about those 8 worldly winds. And they just keep coming. Last night when I went to bed, the wind was just rocking through. I thought, wow, that too? That too, that wind? It can be overwhelming, debilitating, agitating, and it can take our breath away. As the worldly winds pervade, we can increase our delusion, our fears, and hopelessness. Of course, as you read the papers, listen to the news, engage with others, it just increases our delusion. It increases the support and encourages those fears. Think about it for a minute. Consider where you've been, where you've traveled these last months. Just the things that we know of. What has impacted you? How have you managed? As I wake each morning, I know I've shared this, but before I even get out of bed, before my feet hit the floor, I do my metta practice. And it's expanded. The time in my metta practice has gotten huge. With all the places around the world and the disease and the illness and the strife. If we look, we see in the midst of crisis and chaos, loving kindness. We see compassion. And that compassion rises up like a phoenix to show the true nature of who we truly are. I think I shared with the folks here that I heard that at the fires, some of the immigrants jumped in their trucks, the landscapers, the folks, the families, drove up to the fire and started helping at great risk. During the floods, so many people were out there to support and help. I think we spoke about a young man who I just saw yesterday, came up and asked, "You guys okay?" Young man, still school, I think high school. "You okay? How you doing?" For many of us, we are experiencing the great power of our refuge. I certainly am. To the Buddha, I return and rely. To the Dharma, I return and rely. To the Sangha, I return and rely. And as the days and the weeks have passed, that Sangha in particular has just expanded my heart. Expanded. And when it gets hard, I try just to read the headlines. I don't want to get into the story, but then I return and rely because it's not easy. and I don't want to bury my head. We continue to learn it is okay to feel these things, and it is important to not attach to these emotions and feelings. And the Dharma tells us not to be attached, not to grasp, not to cling. Over and over. I think in our Dharma studies, we hear that from Buddha Master over and over again. Do not cling, do not grasp, do not attach. Not so easy, as it just keeps rolling wave after wave after wave. Especially if you feel that the rafts are burning. If you get overwhelmed, turn to each other, reach for each other, take each other by the hand. We'll form a human life raft and we'll swim towards the land. Remember that. Remember that. We are on the edge of great loss, pain, and fear that overrides or can override our great sense of being. And yet, here we are. Here we are. The Buddha tells us, the Dharma tells us, in many places, in many ways, the antidote. To mention a few, the Majjhima Nikaya says Sutta 4 about fear and death. Fear and dread. Sutta 9, right view. Sutta 19, two kinds of thought, and so many more. It's right there. It gives us guidance, direction. It supports us. It only takes picking up this book or looking online, and there it is. In our Dharma study, Buddha Master continuously teaches us and shows us how to reflect and see how we grasp, how we take hold, and allowing the mind to tell its story and attach to that mind-made story. We were just talking about that on Tuesday. It's a slippery slope. That mind really wants us to do that work, tell that story, and get us ground down. But from what I'm hearing from the sharing that we've had, maybe we get caught just a minute, but then we see, or a Sangha member reflects, shows us the way. The other day it snowed. It was beautiful. I have this beautiful window here, and it was just gorgeous. That's coming from someone that lived in Wisconsin, Alaska, but it was just so, and it's quiet for some reason when it snows, and it's bright. I woke up in the middle of the night, I leave the shades open, and it's like, it's so bright in here. It was just the snow. That is a message to us. You don't have to like the snow, but you can appreciate that it provides light, it gives light. And for many of us, some joy. The beauty about being here is that by the next day, or maybe the second day, it's pretty much gone. Pretty much gone. So we can wring our hands and collapse into fear and hopelessness, or we can tell a different story. We can turn to the teachings. We can mirror and support each other. And we can return and rely. We can easily lose touch. We can lose touch of this fundamental capacity. We can end up planting seeds of suffering for ourselves and others. Or we can shine that light and plant a different kind of seed. We're nearing the end of January and then February, and then pretty soon those seeds are going to start coming up. friend of mine in Portland said that certain planets are already coming up. Forget what they were called. I'm like, do they know it's still winter? They survive year after year. They come up early. May get snowed on and iced on, and they still survive. We're like the crocuses. That's what they are. That's what they are. And we can be like crocuses. They're beautiful. They come up. It's like, oh my God, look. And then it snows. And then we look and they're still there. They're still there. One of our guides, our practices, is embracing and walking out daily the paramitas. Now, we've talked a lot about paramitas. I know I have. And I know that if I asked, you're all going to be able to tell me what they are. But what do we do besides repeating what they are? How do we actually live them, especially now? Especially now. There are guides. There are directions. How do we turn to this particular life raft, the paramitas? Dana, giving and receiving freely. Shila, taking skillful action, following proper conduct. Shanti, practicing patience, forbearance, and remaining calm in the face of difficulty. Virya, engaging effort, diligence, putting forth a courageous effort to see the path. In the midst of all this crazy, the winds, okay, I'll say it, executive orders. In spite of it all, putting forth a courageous effort to see the path. Dhyana is meditation, a calm place, just being present. Prajna, wisdom, seeing clearly. I want to read a section of book I've been reading over the years. It kind of speaks to, does speak to the paramitas in a way that really is eloquent in my mind. The word paramita is traditionally translated as perfection, which carries the meaning of going beyond or transcending. A common metaphor is the crossing of a river, such that to practice the paramitas is to cross over from the shore of what my teacher called the cocoon of self-absorption. The cocoon of self-absorption. To another shore, whether we realize that our own well-being and the well-being of others, all beings, and even the planet are interconnected in a vast web of love, joy, pain, and sorrow. I think of the paramitas as fundamental functions of human life that enable us to make wise and compassionate responses in a world filled with suffering. The Buddha often used the parable of a raft to describe the journey of those who endeavor to help others, whatever their circumstances. The parable contains 4 elements: the shore we are standing on, the distant shore, the expanse of water in between, and the raft. The shore we stand on includes fear and uncertainty, sickness, death, and all we do that causes pain and suffering to ourselves and others. What seems at the outset the distant horizon is the shore that includes a deep capacity to bear the suffering and take action that arises out of compassion and love for our fellow beings. There resides our deepest virtues as humans and freedom from suffering. Those who undertake to cross between the 2 shores quickly learn that the river is not static in its width or flow. Sometimes it's a small trickle, like when we find our steps slowing down and pausing to take a few moments to sincerely engage with a street person. How are you doing today? Other times, the distance between the two shores seems like a vast expanse, as when we witness actions of hate and killing, or when our own words of hate echo in our ears. Whatever the distance, the Buddha reminds us that there is a raft that can ferry us across. The raft is his teachings, and the teachings are found embedded in our life as it is. From the vast fundamental wholeness of everything, we are each endowed with the capacity to meet life as it is. It is by living within and through the intention of engaging fully in the world, using caring, courageous, and wise action to help beings, that we find the materials from which to construct our raft. And the shape and appearance of each of our rafts will grow out of what we face in our unique lives from day to day, moment to moment, breath to breath. Nothing special, just using what is at hand, putting it to good use. The paramitas are always within our reach. We just need to engage them, giving and receiving, taking skillful action, letting conditions unfold naturally, using wise effort, resting in the open ground of meditation, and allowing clear seeing to guide us. The practice of the paramitas ferries us to our deepest capacity to love and do good. Though this capacity is always at hand, often we just don't see it. The practice of the paramitas offers us a chance to see ourselves and the world anew, again and again. The author says, when I was a young child, I was troubled and confused after hearing the minister in church speak of heaven and hell. Pondering his words while watching my mother washing dishes at the kitchen sink, I asked her, "Where's hell? Where's heaven?" She answered, "When people do their best in the world, there's heaven. When they do their worst in this world, there's hell." I remember somehow being both relieved and hopeful that not only was hell not a pit of fire waiting to consume me when I broke the rules, but also that I had some say in creating heaven, simply by doing my best. I now understand that my mother's comment placed the making of my world just where it needed to be, with me, wherever I find myself. We are all so skilled at discerning how we're different, but we don't know enough yet about how we're all the same. The paramitas also offer a path to discovering what you and I and everyone else share as human beings. Not our beliefs or values, but rather who and what we are at the core of our collective being. We don't need to create these human virtues, for they're already an essential part of our being and are simply veiled. The good news is that they can be brought forth and expressed in the most ordinary interactions of living. We only need to explore what blocks or clouds them and intentionally bring them into our lives. We can lift the veil and allow what is most natural in us to come forth. This is our practice, to nudge them, cultivate them, and encourage them to come forth. The paramitas help us to turn our deepest aspirations into action. They guide, coax, and support us toward living what we want to become as individuals, as nations, as beings on earth. They remind us that we have a choice. to support life, or to destroy it. They bring forth the bone and marrow of living through and being sustained by our deepest humanity. A week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, we all here, living here, gathered in the fellowship room and watched Conclave. How many have seen Conclave? Mhm. Well, for those who haven't, I won't spoil the end because it's a doozy, or at least I think it is. After we saw the movie, we sat around and talked about it. And there was one thing that certainly stood out for me in the whole movie, and there was many, many, many things that stood out. But the one was a young cardinal. The Pope had died, and they were gathering all the cardinals from around the world to have the election to see who was going to be the next Pope. That alone was historical and interesting to see. But there was a lot that was going on within that. We saw ego, we saw hate, we saw faith, we saw support, we saw challenge. And the vote started. And the black smoke rose after the first. The black smoke rose after the second vote, after the third vote, and maybe a few more. I can't remember, but there were several. And then there was a scene, and again, I'm not going to try to spoil it, but this is the point I'm trying to, what's that?
Don't spoil it.
This is the point of which it's not the end, but it's where one of the cardinals, young cardinals, stood up after all this back and forth and carrying on, and spitting a fire. After the debating who was going to be the next pope. And before they went into this little room, there was an explosion outside. And that just revved up the fires of discontent. And people, meaning the cardinals, a certain few who felt like they had a stance and they had to do it hard and they had to do it firm. And very big and bold ways of saying it. And through the angst of all that, this young cardinal stands up. And I'm not going to do it justice, but I do want to share it because it fits into what we just talked about. Through the fear, through the upset around Islam and Muslim and gay and straight, where egos were rising up, this new cardinal spoke in Italian, so I'm going to have to read it. We talked about last night, I had my sisters with me and we were playing it, and then all of a sudden he starts speaking in Italian. It's like, oh, wait a minute. So I'm going to share it with you, not in Italian. So after this, one cardinal decided to exact war, a religious war. He says, "My brother cardinals, with respect, what do you know about war? I carried out my ministry in the Congo, in Baghdad, in Kabul. I've seen lines of death and wondered, Christians and Muslims, when you say we have to fight, what is it you think we are fighting? Do you think it is these deluded men who have created this bomb outside and multiple bombs? The thing is, what you're fighting is here. and he holds his heart. It's here inside each and every one of us. If we give into hate now, if we speak of sides instead of speaking for every man and woman, if we do that, what will we have? This is my first time here amongst you, he says, and I suppose it may be my last. Forgive me, but these last few days have shown ourselves to be small and petty men. We have seemed concerned only with ourselves, with Rome, with these elections, with power. But these things are not the church. The church is no tradition. The church is not the past. The church is what we do next. And with that, he sat down, and the world stood still for that moment in time. What meaning does that have for you, whether you saw it or not? We have shown ourselves to be small, petty men. We have seemed concerned only with ourselves, with Rome, with these elections, with power. But these things are not the church. The church has no tradition. The church is not the past. The church is what we do next. What we do next. He was pushing with his small but emphatic speech to search themselves. And I offer the same to all of us. Now is the time. If ever there was a time, and there have been many of times that we could have said it, but now is the time. To look beyond our house, to look beyond our neighborhood, to look beyond our town, our cities, our states, our divided selves, our countries, earthquakes, fires, wars. And still, as she says in her poem, and still we rise. Buddha Master tells us first to find our own way, to clear our own path, to do our own work before we step into the world with others. Not an easy task, but a necessary one. These will not necessarily be easy times, and they most certainly will have continued natural disasters, dangers, decisions made with questionable wisdom. Let our actions, speech, and mind come from a place of reflection, contemplation, and wisdom. Let our actions, speech, and mind come from a place of reflection, contemplation, and wisdom. To the Buddha, to the Dharma, to the Sangha, a return and rely. Let us just sit for a moment and settle into these words.
voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. 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 I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 Yeah. I am light. I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. All light. Oh, light. Yeah. Oh, light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. Yeah. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
May the merit of this gathering, of this practice, of our intention, our wish, our growth, be of benefit to all beings everywhere. To those who are homeless due to war, fire, flood, poverty. To those who are struggling. To those who are giving in so many ways. May we all be at peace. And may we find our way together